Hello everyone, this is Brittany from slpmaterialgirl.com here to talk about speech in pop culture. So I hope this video finds you well today. I hope you're doing great. I hope the winter's not being too harsh for you if you're in the northern hemisphere that is experiencing winter. Well, let's get on with it. So today we're going to talk about stuttering in Harry Potter. Specifically this guy, Professor Quirrell. Before we begin, I want to state a couple things about, what is stuttering, what is, fluency, what is disfluency rather. Fluency or stuttering rather is just the involuntary disruption in the flow of speech. So it's a disruption in the forward flow and timing of speech, which, that can include repetition of sounds, syllables, words, prolongations, blocking, etc. But the world isn't split into two groups. It's not fluid speakers and disfluent speakers. Fluency is a spectrum, like most things. So you may find, you may consider yourself a pretty fluent individual. But you may find that there's times where you're disfluent. Right now I'm a little disfluent. I have a lot of interjections. I'm saying a lot. It's because I'm trying to think about what I say carefully. But it's truly a spectrum. We all experience times during the day, during our life, where we're less fluent or more fluent. Okay, I want to start by talking about some facts and myths about stuttering. And I'm getting this from westutter.org. These are some myths that I've gotten off the site. People stutter because they're nervous. These are called myths because they're untrue. Stuttering is psychological, so the cause is, a mental condition. The cause is actually widely unknown. It's not a mental condition at all. Stuttering is caused by emotional trauma. Not true. Stuttering is a habit that people can break if they want to. People who stutter are shy and self-conscious. Just reminding everyone just tuning in, these are myths. People who stutter are less intelligent, less capable, and causes of stuttering, it's caused from bad parenting, making a left-handed child write with their right hand. They're just imitating another family member who stutters. So these are all myths about stuttering that I'm sure for a lot of people are pretty hard to hear. So, there is, talking about Quirrell, what is he? He's introverted, he's insecure, he's guarded, he's nervous. You're going to hear the word nervous a lot in today's presentation, which is a huge myth associated with stuttering. It's a huge stereotype misconception. He's tense, he's very sensitive, he's hesitant. People who, and by the way, please, if you are someone who stutters or you know someone who stutters or, you are someone who recognizes that we're not all this fluent 100% of the time, or if you are someone who's, incredibly fluent, I would love to hear your comments below. Let's have a nice, open discussion. So please comment below if you agree with anything I say today, disagree, want to open the eyes of the viewers who are watching. That would be wonderful. So this is from wizardingworld.com. According to this is J.K. Rowling's thoughts, but Quirrell so nearly sounds like squirrel. So it's small, cute, harmless. The name also suggests quivering. It's a nod to the character's innate nervousness. All the names, well, not all the names, but I know a lot of the names, maybe all the names, in Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling names the character after something. So like Sirius, that's the brightest star in the sky. That's the dog star in the Major Canis constellation. So all of the names are indicative of the character's attributes. It's a clever little thing she did. So Quirrell is nearly the word squirrel, you know, as demonstrated by his 90s style school picture here. So, you know, he's squirrel-like. These are myths. These are misconceptions. These are stereotypes. But she played on that. Which, by the way, we're going to talk about J.K. Rowling later in the video, and why I am not as offended by the character of Quirrell as I was when I first read the Harry Potter books. By the way, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, love them, but I know when I was in I'm a speech language pathologist. I don't know if I went over that. When I was in graduate school, a lot of people got pretty furious at J.K. Rowling for her treatment of Quirrell. You know, the bad guy in the book having a stutter. Like, what is she doing? Playing on all these misconceptions. But we're going to talk about that later. I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion after we really go through this. Because Quirrell is a con man. So stay tuned if you're interested in hearing my bit about that. But here is his physical description from the book. So really playing on this misconception of people who stutter. So a pale young man made his way forward very nervously. One of his eyes was twitching. So, you know, this is how she's describing this character, and she's really playing on our stereotypes about people who stutter. And I'm including myself in this because before I was educated, I held misconceptions and incorrect information and biases and, you know, all that horrible stuff that is weeds in the brain. So that was how she described him. And then I have some this is not an exclusive list of every time Quirrell's in the book. But I did highlight some of the times he came up. By the way, throughout this presentation, I'm referencing the book. I know I'm using images from the movie, but I'm really going to be referencing the book, true to the source material. I actually really enjoyed the first two films of the Harry Potter, movie sagas. But they really deviate from the books the further you get along. So I'm a true book fan. Not that there's anything wrong if you're a true movie fan. My husband's a true movie fan. Both are great. Both groups are great. Don't come for me, Harry Potter fans. I love them too. But anyway, so we see, here's the first appearance of Quirrell in the book. The first thing he says is, Potter stammered, Professor Quirrell grasping Harry's hand, can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you. Harry asks what subject he teaches. Defense against the dark arts, muttered Professor Quirrell as though he'd rather not think about it. Not that you need it, Potter. He laughed nervously. So I'm not going to butcher through the book trying to imitate Quirrell's lines. You can read them for yourself. But here, look at some things I pointed out. So I bolded the word nervously, terrified, nervous. These are the adjectives that are being used to describe Professor Quirrell. We see that he has a part word, or rather a sound repetition. So that is characterizing his stutter. I'm seeing a lot of P's, a lot of K sounds. I think M. So that is characterizing his stutter. I'm trying to think of what I wanted to point out specifically on this. Okay, so here's a conversation between Hagrid and Harry. Even Professor Quirrell was trembling to meet you. Mind you, he's usually trembling. Is he always that nervous? Oh yeah, poor bloke. Brilliant mind. He was fine while he was studying out of books, but then he, met some characters in the forest, and now he's scared of his own subject, scared of the students. So Harry and Hagrid are completely characterizing Quirrell as this poor bloke, this nervous, I'm gonna use the strong word incompetent individual. Like, he's even scared of his own subject. He's not an adequate teacher. This is how they're characterizing him, solely based stuttering, I would say. I mean, apparently he looks a little nervous or terrified, but does he really? Or is that through the lens of someone watching someone stutter? Is this the misconception? Is this the misunderstanding of what, stuttering is? Is this the bias? More lines. Who's that talking to Professor Quirrell? Oh, you know Quirrell already? No wonder he's looking so nervous. So just more, he's kind of rolling his eyes here. So page 134, the class had really been looking forward to Defense Against the Dark Arts, but his class turned out to be a bit of a joke. Just kind of cruel, honestly. They're making fun of the way he dresses. And I wonder if he did not have a stutter, would he have been such like an ongoing joke, an ongoing laugh? I don't think so. So pretty nasty stuff in here. There are other teachers who have attributes that may not, come off as desirable. Like even think about Snape. He's often described as like greasy haired and, bat-like. And is he teased for his physical appearance or made to feel bad? No. So just look at those internal biases you might have, especially when you were, 12 years old reading these books. Here he runs into the Great Hall. Troll in the dungeons thought you ought to know, and he sank to the floor in a dead faint. So this is like playing on that myth that they have, like, people who stutter have lower, gumption, constitution, they clutching his heart, they let out a faint whimper, sat down quickly. So he's just a nervous fella. That's how he's being described. More of that initial sound repetition. Don't know why you wanted to meet here of all places. He was mumbling something. He's described as being petrified. So these are how external, people on the outside are describing him. More of the same. Oh, this was in the book. I don't think this appeared in the movies, but the lake froze solid and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs so that they followed Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. So he's being harassed. He's being bullied, which, if you are someone who is not as fluent, you may have experienced bullying associated with that, which is, it's hard to talk about or think about, let alone experience it. Walking back from the library, Harry heard somebody whimpering from a classroom up ahead. As he drew closer, he heard Quirrell's voice, "No, no, not again, please." It sounded as though someone was threatening him. Harry moved closer. All right, he heard Quirrell sob. Next second, Quirrell came hurrying out of the classroom, straightening his turban. He was pale and looked as though he was about to cry. He strode out of sight. Harry didn't think Quirrell had even noticed him. He waited until Quirrell's footsteps had disappeared and then peered into the classroom. So I put this little detective guy here. This is interesting. Quirrell is, and so just to set the scene up if you didn't read the books, Quirrell is in a classroom right now talking to the back of his own head. Obviously Voldemort is having him, I don't know if he's commissioning him at this point to go drink more unicorn blood or to take that turban off so that he can talk to him or do something to him, but Voldemort is terrorizing him in a room. And you'll see Quirrell he's in real fear. This is one of the only times in the book that he is in real fear, like he's actually nervous, and he isn't demonstrating initial sound repetition. He isn't going, no. He's going, no, not again. So this is him he's having whole word repetition, which if you've ever been terrified, you may have demonstrated whole word repetition. That's pretty much within the realms of what is quote unquote normal. But he's actually terrified. All right. He isn't going, well, actually he doesn't really struggle on R, but I think the nasal sound, no, no. He's not doing that. He's saying, no, not again, please. He isn't going, please. And he's by himself, and he doesn't believe he's being listened to. So this is, if you go back and read the books, this is, for someone who's they're reading the book with these fresh eyes. You're rereading the book. And this is a good sign that he is an imposter and he's faking this stutter that he's demonstrating. I included this because it's just so creepy. Rereading the books, knowing that that's Quirrell. I feel like we kind of dissociate that from being Quirrell, especially in the movies, because he kind of like flies off like a vampire. But a bush on the edge of the clearing quivered. I think it's interesting they use the word quivered, because if you remember, the word Quirrell kind of reminds one of the word quivered. So it's almost like J.K. Rowling is, even though we don't know this is Quirrell, she's kind of like, winking like, hey, who does this remind you of? Then out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. The cloaked figure reached the unicorn, lowered its head over the wound in the animal's side, and began to drink its blood. He just flies off. How they did that in the movie is so fun. His legs just disappear and he just flies off. No broom needed. He's just like a vampire ghost. I thought they did a great job on that. It's great. Here's some. So now the jig is up. The con man has been revealed. So it was Quirrell. You, gasped Harry. So they're in the, they're in the chamber where the Sorcerer's Stone is being held, being kept. Quirrell smiled. His face wasn't twitching at all. So, associating tics and twitching with stuttering, which, by the way, some people definitely do develop physical things that they do to, overcome their stutter. In their mind, it helps them get through that block, get through that repetition, which part of speech therapy is actually disassociating those two things. It's like one time the person may have been stuttering, or maybe a couple times, and something they did with their hand or their face helped them get through that block. So now it's just a learned behavior that if I do this, if I do A, B will result. So that's part of speech therapy, is kind of calming down those secondary effects of stuttering, trying to retrain the brain not to do those things, because in actuality, the secondary behavior does not help the stutter. But, to each their own. Honestly, I think anybody should do whatever they want with their body. But if sometimes the secondary effects are actually more obvious than the primary effects. Like if you, like I said, clench your hands or blink your eyes, that can cause more obvious signs of your disfluency than just getting through, the flow of the sentence. But anyway. Me, he said calmly. These are the words we're now associating with him. I wondered whether I'd be meeting you here, Potter. But I thought Snape. Severus? Quirrell laughed, and it wasn't his usual quivering treble, but a cold, it was cold and sharp. Yes, he does seem the type, doesn't he? And then he mocks stuttering. So useful to have him swooping around like an overgrown brat. Next to him, who would suspect poor stuttering Professor Quirrell? So you see, Quirrell is a con man. He is exploiting the stereotypes surrounding stuttering to appear innocent. So he's exploiting everybody. He's exploiting people who stutter, but he's tricking everybody because he knows that everybody holds these bias and misconceptions. I just included what were his last words in the book. Master, I cannot hold him. My hands. And he, argh. That was the final words of Quirrell, the con man. Quirrell, the bad guy in the Sorcerer's Stone. So here is my unpopular opinion. People, like I said, they get really mad at J.K. Rowling. I've heard people get mad. I don't think everybody does, but I've heard people get mad about J.K. Rowling's treatment of Quirrell. But I don't think she's necessarily doing anything wrong by portraying Quirrell in this way. She wrote about a con man who used a popular stereotype to manipulate people. So he exploited everyone's ignorance of stuttering to manipulate them into thinking he was innocent. So she's kind of capturing real life. There are definitely people out there who will, capitalize on stereotypes, and they will, trick and manipulate people. They may pretend that they have a stutter. They may pretend that they have a handicap or something. I don't know if that word is PC. They may pretend that they have a disability, rather. I don't want to offend anybody. I love all my viewers, and I love people in general. I think people are great. They just don't always know. They might have misinformation. They might have inherited from the rest of the world misconceptions and stereotypes and prejudices. And anyway, I would say don't be mad at her. Be mad at ignorance. Combat that with knowledge. Combat that with understanding. I think that this is a great conversation piece about how she's not necessarily making people who stutter look weak and sensitive and nervous because of the ending of the book. If you read the whole book, she's making this guy look like a real, J.A. I don't want to curse on this video, but, a real donkey, in my opinion, for doing that. I mean, it just makes him even more evil, in my opinion. But I have another example, which is Mother Gothel in Tangled. If you've seen Mother Gothel, she's a total gaslighter. She gaslights Rapunzel at every turn. Does that mean that the makers of Rapunzel support gaslighting? No. You see, from a different example, they do not promote gaslighting by writing about a character who does it, a character who cons, a character who does bad things. That's just the bad guy. So if Mother Gothel being a gaslighter and Quirrell being a con man who pretends to stutter, it's kind of the same thing. Is J.K. Rowling, is she promoting these stereotypes? Not necessarily, because of the ending. The ending that is revealed that he was a con man, capitalizing on the stereotypes. Even if, let's say, Quirrell was a true person who had disfluent speech, identified as a person who stutters, and he was evil, but he was still playing on those stereotypes of, oh, look at me, I'm innocent, and I'm sensitive, and I'm hesitant. If he was capitalizing on that, but then at the end he was stuttering, but he was like super confident, and he was like still very evil, but he was promoting that idea, of that stereotype. That wouldn't be a bad thing. It's just a character she wrote that stutters, whether they're bad or good, because that doesn't define if you're bad or good, innocent, evil, anywhere in between. But, think of Mother Gothel. She's a gaslighter. Disney is not promoting you to gaslight. She's bad. She's a bad character. Just like having misconceptions about stuttering, that guy's bad for playing on that. That's one of his crimes in that book. For fun, here are some memes. Love memes. I'll let you read them for a second. They're great. You might just want to pause the video if I click too quick, but they're great, aren't they? Anywho, this one gets me. Thank goodness the children are okay. Thank goodness the children are okay. Thank goodness my troll's okay. It's just silly. Boy, this is a heavy slide. You can research this on your own. I might actually make a different, a separate video with more pictures that aren't just bunch of words on the screen, but this is just the SLP's role in screening, assessing, diagnosing, and treating fluency disorders. And I got this right off the practice portal on asha.org, asha.org. But a big thing with speech therapy and stuttering, in my experience, treating disfluency, is assisting children who stutter and dealing with teasing and bullying, recommending related services. Like if the student is internalizing all these negative feedback from everybody, do they need referred to the school psychologist or what to deal with, depression, anxiety caused by how people view them, not how they, necessarily view themselves. Educating families, educating other professionals, other teachers, counseling. Counseling is a big piece of fluency disorders. Just, self-acceptance and reducing these negative reactions, internalized feelings, diagnosing the different fluency disorders, screening students for having a disfluency. So that's all in the SLP purview. Thought I'd just include that. Hey, if you liked what I was talking about today, or if you're interested in SLP materials, you can go to slpmaterialgirl.com, which is my website, where I sell mostly school-based SLP materials. So if you're an SLP watching this, check out slpmaterialgirl.com. You might find something you like. I've got a lot of articulation products on there. I've got some expressive and receptive language products, some pragmatic language activities. So, check it out. I'm going to leave this little disclaimer up here. I'm not providing therapeutic intervention. I'm not providing medical advice or treatment. I'm definitely not an expert. I think, as a licensed SLP, I would say that treating disfluency is not what I would consider my area of expertise. So if I said something incorrect today, if I said something that you strongly agree with, disagree with, or kind of neutral about, please just comment below. Let's have a discussion. Please hit the like button or subscribe if you want to hear more from me. This is the first video in the segment of speech and pop culture. So if you want to see another video like this, I'm thinking about talking about different characters and popular, TV and books. Please do that. It's a free way for you to support my channel. But I think that's it. Like I said, check out my site, slpmaterialgirl.com. I also, peddle my products on TPT. So if you're a teacher pay teacher fan, check me out there. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. I hope I got some conversations going, and just spread the word, spread education to each other. Let's have a more understanding world. All right, bye-bye.